On the title track of Phil Elverum's new album Now Only, he sings the phrase, "People get cancer and die," but over some of the most uncharacteristically jolly music of his career. This sounds like a spiteful joke, but it sticks out so jarringly in the midst of an album all about grief and loss and recollecting memory that it just has to be a scornful and sad coping mechanism for the guy, right? In 2017, Phil Elverum of the Microphones and Mount Eerie released an album that redefined, or rather reminded us, of the way that music may be used as a medium of personal expression, by laying all thoughts bare and unfiltered without the desire to turn his feelings into poetry. A Crow Looked at Me had songs that function more like stream of consciousness reflections on the way that we think about death and its harrowing impact on us and those around us. Elverum picked up a guitar, his wife's no less, and put his thoughts to the mic and created an album so close to the reality that it was such a discomforting listen, and yet admirable all the same. Sometimes Elverum would end a song abruptly, maybe he would linger on a thought for extended beats on the song, maybe he'd even refer back to past songs he'd written as reminders of the past. I still have my praises and sympathies to voice about Crow, but ultimately my thoughts are of hope that Elverum finds his time of healing as he and his family move on from their loss. With that said, a year after Crow's release, Now Only is the follow-up album and a sign that Elverum still has more to say, and while he claims not to have closure just yet, there are still signs that perhaps he is finding some kind of a time of healing. While Now Only continues to feel very open-ended and controlled by whatever current of thought Elverum has the time of writing or performing, this album seems to have genuine songs and structures on it, which I find an interesting change from what came before, an album that did its best to subvert both. Death is such a potent subject, but Elverum aims to explore it in a way that doesn't fantasize or cushion it. Not only that, but there seems to be more extravagant instrumental choices made to this album, such as the jutting and distorted blasts of guitar during Earth that emphasize the shock of finding Genevieve's bleached bones in the yard, and yet it seems much less a moment of horror and another saddening reminder of mortality. The song Earth overall sticks out to me as one of the standout expressions of how merciless the world's natural orders are, and the opener, Tintin in Tibet, may begin the album on a personal and confessional note, striking me as a flashback of sorts, but once Elverum snaps back into the present, all these reminders of Genevieve gather up and hit him like a sack of bricks, a line about missing her that comes so blatant and suddenly that I got very misty-eyed. I understand that the long-form and unfiltered folk musings of Mount Eerie aren't musically engaging for every listener, but I feel that the sheer amount of detail and honesty poured into the track, describing two paintings by Nikolai Astrup, is staggering to me. Every detail and symbol and colour and person in these paintings come to life. Death is not a new subject in Elverum's music, but we're listening to albums birthed from the rediscovery of how scarily tangible it is. What we're listening to is very close to events in real time unfolding, which to me is just a haunting thought, thinking about how similar things are for others who experience loss of a loved one, no matter how personal those details in the lyrics are to Elverum. And regardless of how one may feel about the album musically, overall I'm just glad the man is doing better, and I hope he continues to find solace and comfort as much as he can. My personal score of Now Only is a 7 out of 10, but I do have a bit more to say, because yes, it requires the context of the album before it to really understand what is going on. Some say that viewing Now Only in a vacuum limits how much you can really appreciate it on its own, but the thing is, we will always know that context. It's always connected to this album, and it betters our understanding of what Elverum is doing with the music. Separating the context from the music that was directly birthed from it seems genuinely impossible. And while Elverum may be healing and finding pockets of light, his musings on this album are significant of something. That A Crow Looked at Me was a stark reminder that death is real, yes, but Now Only is a more saddening reminder that maybe we just don't know how to deal with that.